Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, or team up against a guest and battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Please enjoy part 1. Hello, Podderoonies. We are back for 2022. I know you've missed us dearly and desperate for our podcast in our ears.
Yeah, you thought you could get rid of us. No such luck. Back here with a vengeance.
We are indeed. Just a few announcements to say before we get started. We are going down to every 2 weeks now for each episode, still coming out on Saturdays, but just every 2 weeks. I know it's sad, but it just got a lot for me in particular.
Yeah, for you in particular. I hardly had to do anything. I just wake up and
Boaz just turns up, says his stuff.
Yeah, I do even half-assed. I'm not even prepared. I've barely watched the films, whatever. We just get You've got to do so much, man, and work.
And the other thing, we're going to start off with a new table. So on our Instagram on Tuesdays, it'll be a new table. So we're keeping the 2021 one separate. So it'd be kind of cool to have a new table for 2022. Right, that's the only real things to announce for this year. And also, I said at the end of the last episode that we did on the 18th of December, when you heard it, that we might do an episode related to Scream or Scream 5. But every time I mention Scream 5 to Boaz, he's like, oh, for God's sake, why do they have to call it Scream? It's called Scream 5.
Yeah.
So
No, I hate that. Actually, to be honest, can we do a thing based on that? But this is going to be niche, but sequels which don't have a subtitle or number. Because we could do a few, and I could
confuse everyone.
Yeah, confuse the hell out of people. There's Rocky Balboa, for example, or just Balboa, you know? Or actually, a lot of the Sylvester Stallone ones, he just fucking does that, doesn't he? It's really annoying.
Yeah.
And Balboa and just Rambo, isn't it? Is the number 5. Could do that.
Yeah, maybe. And we kind of done slasher films already. So.
Yeah, I know, but I am thoroughly annoyed when movies do that. You have a sequel that has got the same name as the first one. Like, I could keep going on. I'm going to ruin this podcast with this huge man.
Boaz is going to come after you.
Yeah, I'll kill you, man.
Keep making 5th quals, 6th quals, just saying the original title.
Was it, Fast and the Furious? And then is it the 4th one is The Fast and the Furious? It's like, what the hell? Yeah. It's so confusing. I hate this. I hate it.
I mean, the new one is just called F9, like on a keyboard. I'm like, what?
Because I think they accidentally pressed the F9 key, and they were like, instead of the actual fucking title.
Oh, that'll do.
Yeah, that'll do. Oh god. Oh wow. Actually, it works.
We don't need extra words other than F.
Yeah. The next one is just going to be F. And then, the way it's stupidly getting with those films, they could just still call it FU. Because they have no respect for the people watching the film. Anyway, sorry about my rant over movie titles, but they
podcast derailed already.
Yeah, they drive me crazy.
Let's pull her back in.
Yeah, just let me rant another hour, and then we can get back to it. But anyway, now let's carry on.
Yeah, let's rant for another hour for the intro, then get into the podcast.
Yeah.
So we're not going to do a podcast related to Scream 5. I know it's a very popular film. I'm not that into the Scream films anyway. I love Scream 1, that's great, but the others are a bit meh for me. So we decided to go with Licorice Pizza, which of course is directed by the great Paul Thomas Anderson, a legendary director, PTA. I do love his films, so we decided to go for that one instead. And as always, you've heard him already, but we have our very own milkshake straw maker, the size of oil derricks. That was so bad.
That's terrible.
Boaz Dix, how are you, sir?
Did you just call me fat? Is that an underhanded way to say
no?
I'm as big as an oil derrick? Jesus Christ.
No, the size of the straw.
Oh okay. Right, whatever. I'll take that as a compliment, I think. Yeah.
You good?
Yeah, no, I'm good, yeah.
Right, shall we go with my choice first then?
Yep.
For Paul Thomas Anderson films, I went with Phantom Thread. I really love this film. I think it's really beautiful.
Is that Phantom Thread or Phantom Thread?
Phantom Thread.
Yeah, you said.
Did I not say
you
it
said
right?
Phantom.
Okay.
Phantom.
All right.
Okay.
Phantom. Yeah. No purple people in this one with Billy Zane in there.
Oh no, that sucks.
Yeah,
I think I watched the wrong film then. Oh shit.
Yeah, Billy Zane as the Phantom making dresses. Yeah. That's a film I would love to watch.
That would be amazing. That would be incredible.
Yeah, because you picked There Will Be Blood first, and I love that film as well. So I was probably going to pick that if you didn't pick it.
Yeah.
And it's got obviously the legendary Daniel Day-Lewis in it, and I was like, you know what? Because Daniel Day-Lewis has retired, I may as well pick the other film that PTA used Daniel Day-Lewis in. So this episode is kind of half PTA, half Daniel Day-Lewis,
yeah.
Because the poor sod has retired now, so which is a real shame.
It is a
but,
real damn shame.
It's kind of one of those things where he's retired, left us wanting more from his work. So what happens in Phantom Thread? Well, a character called Reynolds Woodcock, played by Daniel Day-Lewis, is a renowned dressmaker in London, 1950s London, highly, highly respected. And one of the main points in this film, and it's not a joke, is that he needs a lot of patience at breakfast. And he meets a girl called Alma, played by Vicky Krieps. Yeah, and they meet in a restaurant by the sea, and they kind of hit it off. But Alma soon realizes that the only way she can love Reynolds properly is by kind of removing or trying to get Reynolds away from this dressmaking business that he's so fond of and so dedicated to. So she finally kind of comes up with the idea of poisoning him with poisonous mushrooms so he can look after him while he's ill, and that's kind of the best way for them both to fall in love and love each other. Basically, it's kind of a great romantic film that kind of flips the Hollywoodiness on its head kind of thing, which I really like. And also it looks amazing as well. Does, yeah. So, again, shot on film. I'm a big advocate for more films to be shot on film. Yeah, love it. So Boaz, what did you make of this one then?
Yeah, no, I thought it was amazing. Yeah, basically all you said and more really. Yeah, I thought it was shot very well. And yeah, I think it is an interesting romance film because it is essentially a romance, but it is incredibly dysfunctional. It's not really done in the conventional way. Yeah, and it does have a charming ending, but it really is very different from any other romance film. You're like, wow, okay, that's how they decide to deal with it. Yeah, like you said, basically their relationship. What saves it is poison. But it's kind of adorable. I don't know. There's a lot more we can say about it, but yeah, no, I did like it. I did quite like it.
So directing then for Phantom Thread, the opening scenes are very simple, just establishing this world of dressmaking in the 1950s in London. The breakfast table scene is really interesting, where Daniel Day-Lewis's character Reynolds Woodcock gets slightly annoyed by her current lover, and she says, where have you gone, Reynolds? What you normally would have is a reaction shot of Reynolds first, but not PTA. The reaction is on Leslie Manville's character, Cyril, Reynolds' sister, in close-up. The fact that we cut to a different character in close-up means that this small situation could get quite serious or potentially very serious in the future. Certainly breakfast scenes are very important in this film, so I quite like that. I quite like the simple wide shot when towards the end when Cyril and Alma are tending to Reynolds. The first time he gets really ill in bed, and when Cyril leaves and asks Alma to come with her, Alma just shuts the door on her, and it's a really nice composed shot in terms of blocking, and a real like symbol of power starting to shift. Then Alma has Reynolds where she wants him to love him how she wants to, and Cyril is forced to sort the wedding dress out by herself with all the other workers. Then Cyril kind of hits back a little bit by bringing in the doctor to look at Reynolds, but then Reynolds and Alma tells him to fuck off, basically, literally to fuck off.
Yeah, that's funny.
Then Alma and Cyril literally say their lines at the same time, like Alma is really trying to force her way to the top of the tree in this house, So I kind of like, certainly in the way that both characters, Cyril and Alma, are directed in terms of the power struggle in those moments in the film.
Yeah, no, definitely. You can feel like she comes a long way, is quite, meek and pretty and stuff into more of an authority. Yeah, going back to what you said, like at the dinner table, the first scene, where you were saying, because I actually think you get a different sense of the plot from that shot. And it happens again where, somebody asks Woodcock or something, like he's having a conversation with, a girl that he's with, whether it be Alma or the previous girl, but it always goes to her reaction, or it does that sometimes. So when you said they're talking at the dinner table, it goes to her reaction. In my thought process, I'm like, the reason when I see her, the camera go to her rather than him, even though he's the one talking and she's not really involved in this conversation, to me, it gets the feeling of, oh God, she's heard this again. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is a kind of very familiar conversation his sister has heard, probably with his other lovers and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, this has happened again. And then I got that sense as well when he takes Elma to have a dress fitting, so he's like, and she just comes in and the camera's just on her as he's also talking to Elma and talking to Cyril to get the measurements. But the camera is on her and is on her pad. And you just get this feeling from the fact that it's focusing on her of like, God, this is another one. Oh, God, this is again, her sort of visible, here we go again face. But the camera is on her while, Daniel Day-Lewis is with this other woman. And I thought that's kind of an effective way to frame the scene.
Yeah.
Because, you get this just from those shots, just the way to do that and to focus on a different character, you get this sort of view that this isn't going to last, or this is doomed. This has probably happened again. Yeah. So that's sort of what I was getting from it.
PTA loves a long, like, push-in shot in scenes. There are loads of great push-ins in There Will Be Blood, in really important moments. There aren't that many at all in Phantom Thread. This film has a slight, like, claustrophobic quality to it, so lots of push-ins wouldn't be needed so much. But PTA comes back to his long push-in when Reynolds tells Alma he loves her and asks her to marry him. And the longer she waits to answer, you can really feel the camera coming in closer and closer and making the scene more impactful with the shot. Because it's a huge moment for Reynolds, because he's clearly states that he's destined to be a bachelor for the rest of his life, So I thought that was quite a nice way the camera just moves in closer and closer as this big moment happens. I thought that was quite clever from PTA.
Yeah, definitely.
In saving that his kind of like signature move for a really important moment when they're kind of like everywhere in There Will Be Blood.
Yeah.
You got a favorite shot then, or scene?
So I've got a few shots that I quite like. There is one shot that sticks out to me as, I don't know why it sticks out so much, but I just quite like it. And it is very simple, but it is simply when he goes, before he meets Thelma, where his sister is like, you probably need to go to the country, clear your head or whatever, go somewhere. And he's like, that's a good idea. And then he goes on a drive, and just, you have this kind of long shot of him driving with his car, and just the camera sort of affixed to his car, where it's following.
Yeah, he's a dangerous driver.
He is a terrible driver. Very terrible driver. But it
really fast.
Yeah, really fast. Really all over the place.
Like, dude, slow down. You're going to get yourself killed.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just really like that scene. One, you get the look of this environment, kind of a very rural seaside area, and it looks nice. It looks quite nice, and time appropriate vehicles and what have you. And behind his car, but I just like how it is it's like it's attached to his car, the camera, like it's following exactly. And I don't know, that shot stuck out to me. Other shots that I quite like.
Yeah.
I liked the, when we were talking about the scene where he's fitting the dress to her the first time. And I like how it quickly cuts. I like the cuts there between her writing on the paper. I know it's a simple thing, but him saying the measurements, and, you see these shots of him measuring across her arm, and then quickly to her jotting it down, and then straight to him measuring another. I don't know, but that stuck to me as well. I thought that was cut like quite nice. Do you know what I mean? It just looked appealing.
Yeah. They're nice, those like extreme close-ups of her writing the numbers down. I don't know, there's just something quite satisfying about that.
Yeah, there was something just very satisfying about it. I liked when she was displaying the dresses in front of, the crowd that were auctioning for them. And, she goes, she goes in, gets another dress put on, and then the camera... It's
kind of like one-ers.
Yeah, and the camera follows her from room to room. So, she can... And then background. Cool. And he is not cool as a cucumber. I do like that, where the camera goes through these rooms.
No, let me do it myself.
Yeah,
Go away.
And he gets really pissed off. He's in the back. But yeah, no, I do like that. Like these long tracking shots of her going across the thing. I thought that was really nice.
Hey, I'm James Lovino, and I'm here to tell you about Alternate Sides, a movie podcast with a twist. I've worked in the film business for 2 decades, but I haven't actually seen that many movies, and this has been driving my frequent collaborator, Sam, a self-confessed film snob, crazy. So every week, while he's stuck in his car trying to avoid getting a parking ticket, thanks to New York City's alternate side parking regulations, we discuss a classic film I've finally just gotten around to seeing. Alternate Sides, a new podcast about movies, parking, and a 25-year friendship, wherever you get your podcasts.
My favourite shot is when Reynolds and Alma are on their honeymoon and in the Alps, and there's a shot of Reynolds like sat down looking at people walking up a mountain, and you see these amazing mountains in the background. It's just stunning to look at, probably because it's shot on film. Then the dissolving transition from that to falling snow to Reynolds and Alma walking down these glamorous steps. It's just a really nice look to the film and just a really nice, simple sequence there.
When he goes to the New Year's party eventually, I wasn't expecting that to be as large and as chaotic as it was. You get all these shots in like quiet rooms and quaint countryside. And then he goes off. He's like darting from one place to the other because she wants to go dancing for New Year, and he is not interested. Yeah. And he's like, oh, fuck it. And then I just like how he opens the door, and it's still like quiet, quaint, and very simple. And opens the door, and it's absolute mania with loads of balloons and people on stilts and giant parades and all this stuff. It was
certainly likes the quiet life.
Yeah.
Reynolds.
Yeah. I quite like that. I thought that was really good. Her preparing the mushrooms, especially the second time, that was incredibly sinister. Didn't you get that?
Yeah, it's very passive aggressive.
Yeah, that how she's just like looking at him like with daggers, and he's just like, he knows there's something wrong. But I just love how it's done. Yeah. It's so simple, but the camera just slowly panning down to her chopping something. What's she chopping? It's mushrooms, and you're like, and she prepares them, puts them in a pot. And it's such a simple scene, but just how it's shot, and the music of it, and just how they're looking at each other, it's just quite tense.
And just obviously the choice of close-ups in that scene is obviously very significant because Reynolds hates butter. He hates too much butter, so you get a massive slap of butter on the pan.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I mean, a slab of butter isn't more scary in this film. Isn't you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right, score, Baz. What are you going for directing?
Yeah, no, I really like the directing in this. I think I'll go. I do like it. but I'm not sure how much I like it. I'm not sure because I would give it a in the 9s, but I'm not sure. So because of that hesitance, I'm going to give it an 8.8.
All right, cool. No, I think that's very fair. I think where both films excel is with the acting and the writing for me.
I think There Will Be Blood, I think, excels more than this in the directing. Because there is so much going on in There Will Be Blood. In my opinion, I think there's so much going on in There Will Be Blood.
I think with this, though, you kind of can feel the film presence a bit more, possibly. I don't know, of the look of the film in this one, in Phantom Thread. So I'll go the same, actually, 8.8. I think that's a pretty spot on, I think. Right, screenplay then. The first 30 minutes are really interesting, where the film is quite romantic and there's no tension between Alma and Reynolds. Just that first breakfast scene at the start with his lover, when Alma says in this little montage sequence, whatever you do, do it carefully. And it does feel slightly like a warning that she will fight back if she's mistreated. But the tone is still very romantic, and you're like, this tone is not going to last. You can't have a film with this very wistful, romantic tone for too long. And then when you get to the second breakfast scene with Alma, she's making so much noise that really distracts Reynolds while he's drawing. And in your mind as a viewer, if he's getting this irritated from a bit of noise at breakfast, how do you think he's going to react if one of his dresses isn't right? Not good at all. In fact, each breakfast scene becomes even more like icy with tension, even for Cyril. So the tension building between the characters are incredibly subtly done. I think it's just great. And obviously it doesn't work without the incredible acting as well, but certainly structurally with those breakfast scenes are great. I quite like the scene with Barbara Rose, this quite hysterical middle-aged woman who gets married in one of Woodcock's dresses.
Where she
faints head first on the table.
Yeah, that was funny.
Quite funny and brings some humour to the film.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. She just boom like that, and they have to drag her. I love that. They just pick her up, take her to bed. Yeah, no, that was a good scene. And then when she's like crying about it, Elma, he's like, "What the hell? What's your problem?" And he's like, "She thinks it's disgraceful, like how she's behaving,
Yeah.
And so he kind of is sort of egged up. That kind of gives him the passion to go, "Do you know what? Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't be standing for this shit." And he just goes over to her.
I want my dress back.
Yeah, I want my dress back. Yeah, and I like that. He's like, but she's, she's still wearing it. It's like, well, where is she? She's asleep. Like, she's sleeping in the dress. Well, go in there and get it the fuck off of her. You know what I mean? I like that. Yeah, that was a good scene.
Yeah, PTA loves a well-timed swear word.
Yeah.
Like, we'll get onto this a lot in this podcast. PTA loves insults. He loves really creative insults.
Yeah, I know. There's some great ones in here. Can I go over a few that I like, sort of in no particular order?
Yeah, sure.
But I like when he's really kind of passive aggressive when she tries to bring him a cup of tea while he's working. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And and he was like, it's not the time for tea. Yeah. And she says, "Okay, I'm going out." And he goes, "The tea is going out. The interruption is staying right here with me." And I quite like that. It's a very bitchy sort of. Yeah. You've ruined it. And I like when, what was it? Cyril thinks he might get rid of Elma, and they talk about that because he's like, "Do you want me to talk to her?" And no, it's fine. And then she's like, "I just don't want you to break her heart." And then he has a go at her, and I like where she goes, "Don't pick a fight with me. You certainly won't come out alive. I'll go right through you, and it'll be you who ends up on the floor. Understand?" And I thought, that's that's pretty.
Yeah,
cool.
That was great.
Yeah. There are some great like insults and turns of phrase.
Yeah, I love that moment. It's great acting from Leslie Manville. When she threatens Reynolds at that breakfast scene, because it's established several times that Reynolds is the dominant presence at breakfast. Reynolds tells her to shut up, and she remains very calm, but doesn't even bother looking at Reynolds. Not because she's scared of him, but because she doesn't want her to, use up wasted energy on him. That's what I kind of felt from it, and then says that amazing line.
Yeah, it's an incredible line. I wasn't expecting that.
But yeah, when like Alma goes in that room to take the green dress off that ridiculous woman, she says she can no longer behave like this and be dressed by the House of Woodcock. And I was like, that was pretty badass at moment.
Yeah, that was incredible.
In this very romantic 50s style, of course. And then in the next scenes, a lot of the conversations between Reynolds and Cyril are all from like Alma's perspective, and it's like Alma has got to get past Cyril and the whole dressmaking business to first truly get to Reynolds fully and live with him how she wants to. And Alma's first idea is to surprise Reynolds by getting everyone out of the house, and she cooks a meal for him. And Cyril advises against this. And as soon as Reynolds walks in, you know he's going to hate it.
Yeah.
And of course he does, and they have an enormous argument mainly about asparagus.
Yeah, I found that funny because she was like, I advise against this, Elmer. It's like, fair enough, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to love him in my own way. And then I love the reaction as he comes in, and he's just like, Cyril, immediately asking for a sister. Where is she? I sent her away. Well, where is she? And you can see he's quite annoyed, but he keeps it in. And when he went up the stairs, because she's like, "Oh, I made you a dinner," he's like, "Okay," and he just walks up the steps. I thought he was going to slap the shit out of her, but he just kind of
really?
walks very like up the steps, like, "Will you have like what was it, martini?" He's like, "No, thank you," But I love how
I'm just gonna have a bath. Thanks.
He at least tries to entertain her with this. But is then just absolutely hates her cooking.
Just has enough.
Yeah, and he just... And I love that. Like, doesn't like her cooking and then, like, berates her. And then she's like...
He's like, I just can't carry on with this facade. I've got butter on my fucking asparagus, not oil. Yeah. What are you doing?
I like when he's kind of losing his shit because...
Are you just doing this to piss me off?
Yeah, because she's like... do you think I don't need you? Like he says to her. And I thought he was going to go like, because I need you. But he's like, do you think I don't need you? It's like, yeah, well, I don't need you. And I love how like brutally honest he is. He's like, I don't fucking care about you that much. Yeah, I like that. Because there's one bit where he goes like, is this an ambush? Are you sent to ruin my evening and possibly my entire life?
Yeah.
And he's like, have you got a gun? Is there a gun on you? Like...
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how he's just losing shit with her.
I love that bit because it's like he's falling for her in that moment because it's like he can't get away from her now that the connection between them is too strong. It's like, am I so attracted to you that have you got do you know what I mean? Like, do you have a gun?
Yeah. Are you like threatening? Are you keeping me in this? Yeah, I don't know exactly.
Why am I so attracted to you? Damn it! That kind of thing,
Yeah.
And then Alma comes up with a different plan to poison Reynolds, but then you combine that with the fact that Alma is telling us this story in like flash forwards to a man we've only had like one shot of. And you're like, has she just had enough with this guy and just decided to kill him with the poisonous mushrooms? So the intrigue and character dynamics goes up a big notch. It's the first time we know something that Reynolds does not, So I thought that was kind of a clever moment there.
Yeah, because I was half thinking, that the framing device was she'd murdered him and is explaining her crime. That's not exactly what's happening. It's like basically explaining how she keeps this dysfunctional marriage going. Every time he becomes a jackass and is quite abrasive and he's just irritated by every little thing and he's working too hard. She just poisons the fucker and they get on really, really well, And then after a couple of days, he can be a dick again.
Yeah, and I love just how this film kind of... It's very unpredictable. It definitely keeps you guessing. And I love how this film subverts like the Hollywood rom-com ending, but they still end up happily in love at the end. After they're married, things start falling apart again, and Alma goes off on her own to a New Year's Eve party. And it's directed in this classic way of the male lead seeing the light and rushes after Alma to find her, and he does, but there's no loving embrace.
No.
Drags her back home, really angry at Alma. Then their relationship seems to be in tatters. Reynolds thinks he's made a huge mistake marrying this girl. And there's this incredible passive-aggressive scene in the kitchen where Alma cooks this omelette with loads of poisonous mushrooms, with loads of butter, which he hates. Like, pours the water really loudly, up and down. But I love how long they make you wait for them to say anything, referring back to, like, the staring contest quip for me.
Oh, yeah.
And Alma openly admits she's poisoning him because that's the only way they can love each other. And I feel like this whole film rides on Daniel Day-Lewis's performance in accepting she's right. In anyone else's hands, it would feel ridiculous, this situation. But it just works with him. Love it. The music is brilliant too in that scene.
But I love that when he clocks on that actually, this would probably save their marriage, because when he was sick the first time, I like that scene because she was very caring. You see this kind of montage for days. She's like consoling him and feeding him and what have you.
Yeah.
She's even talking to the doctor how about, that was just like one of the best times of their marriage. He also has this really trippy scene where he sees his mother. Do you remember that? Where she's just in the corner of the room in a wedding dress. It's like really quite weird, because he talks about his mother a lot, that he misses her. And then he just like sees her in the middle of the room,
Yeah. Because I think weird is the right word, because it's not creepy. It didn't feel creepy to me. It just, again, as he says himself, it kind of felt weirdly comforting for him, Yeah. It wasn't scary at all.
Yeah, because he even says at the beginning, that the dead are still watching over us. I don't find that creepy at all. I find it very comforting. And he talks about his mother so much. And at first I thought that was like Elmer in a wedding dress on the base of the front of the bed. But then he keeps saying mother and mother, and it is his mother, that was pretty weird.
Again, brilliantly written. There are some great lines in this. We've mentioned a few already. From Reynolds, Woodcock, he says in the argument, I think, in the surprise party, the surprise dinner, if you don't wish to share that life, as apparently it's so disagreeable to you in every respect, why don't you just fuck off to back where you came from?
Yeah.
It was quite funny. And one from Alma herself to the doctor, I think, and Cyril, while Reynolds is sick, and she says, I think this is clear. He wants you to fuck off.
Yeah.
Just cool. Really well placed F words from PTA.
Yeah.
And a great one near the end from Reynolds to Cyril, I think. There is an air of quiet death in this house, and I do not like the way it smells.
Yeah, that is a really damn good line. Yeah.
I think my favourite, though, is... doesn't have a swear word in it, but my favourite is chic. Whoever invented that ought to be spanked in public. I think that's great.
Yeah. Do you remember when he's talking to Cyril? I think it's that same conversation. And he was like, he's just kind of pouring his heart out about how he's made a mistake marrying her, She's ruining the house, she's turning him inside out emotionally and stuff. And she's right behind him. I find that, it's so funny. She's walking through and she's like, oh, shit. And you just have that, camera angle where it's him talking all this. And it's like, she's right behind you, you fool. He's got no idea. She just walks in as he's just cussing her out. And then she very quietly says, Mrs. Vaughan is satisfied with the dress. And you'd think he'd be shocked that he's literally been discovered insulting her and regretting to marry her. But he doesn't even turn around and he just goes, nobody gives a tinker's fucking curse. What about Mrs. Vaughan's satisfaction? Like that.
Yeah.
And then she just walks out of the room. And I really like that. I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah, great line. Is that your favourite?
Yeah, no, that's a great line. Yeah, I think I would say that's my favourite.
So, score, Bowers, what are you going for screenplay?
Yeah, I think the screenplay is it's pretty awesome actually, and a lot of great lines, a lot of wit. Yeah, I'd probably go and like a 9.
Yeah, I just love how this film kind of keeps you guessing, and again, just really creative swearing by PTA, but the characters are so well drawn.
Yeah, because I usually I can either guess pretty good where a film is going, or I look it up mostly, but I didn't look this one up. And I literally had no bloody idea where the hell any of this was going. So I think if you go in blind, it's not one of those films where you're going to be able to guess the plot points. Like, they really do turn a lot of stuff on its head. Yeah, so it is a very unconventional romance movie.
Yeah, it's one of these great films where the characters really drive the narrative in this story and not really plot, to be honest. So I'll go with a 9.1.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's not like some big thing happens. It's just he finds a girl and his personality and hers just don't match. And that is essentially the film. It's just there's no big event that causes a feud between them. They're just not right for each other, really. And that's what the film is. But yeah.
Right, acting then. I think this is probably the world's best film in terms of breakfasts, as we said, but has the most romantic and sexiest scene of ordering breakfast ever.
Oh, yeah. He is the king of flirting.
Daniel Day-Lewis is like a little schoolboy ordering breakfast to Alma, and she's a waitress at this point at the start of the film. Yeah, he's in full control of the scene. It's just a lovely scene between the two of them, just really innocent, you know. I would like Welsh rabbit with poached egg on top, sausages, bacon.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, whoa, steady on, dude. That's too much.
Yeah. No, I like that as well, because he's like toast, butter, and jam, but not strawberry. And she's like, we got blackberry, anything else, you know. But it sounds like such a... But the way he does it, it's so playful. It's almost like, I'm a big boy because I'm ordering so much food. Are you impressed? And it's so vaguely sexual. Not even vaguely. It's so overtly sexual. Just being about breakfast. It's like, I don't know. And
he just randomly just takes the pad and takes the notes off.
Yeah.
And just like, I'm keeping this. Can you remember that? I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, I quite like that, because he's like, can you remember all this? He's like, yeah, okay, I'm literally keeping the order. I quite like that.
Yeah.
It was it was adorable.
I really like the scene where Reynolds has Alma in his workshop and is deciding what color suits Alma for a dress, which he never asked for, by the way.
Yeah.
And it's all quite romantic, but as soon as like Leslie Manville arrives as Cyril, she's really intrusive towards Alma, just leans into her personal space and tries to work out what perfume Alma smells like.
Yeah.
And the whole dynamic of the scene changes, and Reynolds is none the wiser and just carries on doing her measurements while Cyril helps, and it becomes quite awkward for Alma. It's just a really great scene there.
Yeah, especially when he's like, you've got no breasts, and she's like,
yeah, just randomly.
Yeah, random.
It's like, what?
She's like, what? Yeah, I'm sorry. And I was like, no, don't be sorry. It's my job to give you breasts or not. It's like a really strange.
It's just very out of the blue. Yeah. And I love the little piece of acting from Daniel Day-Lewis on their honeymoon. And he's still getting annoyed by Alma being really loud when she's eating breakfast in the Alps.
Yeah.
But Reynolds is trying not to say anything. He's like, nope, I'm not going to say anything. She's my wife now. I'm trying really hard. You can just get that from his performance.
Yeah, definitely. Even actually just at the beginning where he's having dinner with Cyril, and then he happens to he's just going over like how much he misses his mother. I thought that was really quite heartfelt, and it felt like he could, literally just break down at any moment. But just thinking about it, you could feel the emotion in it. I thought that was just a very heartfelt, sweet scene.
Favorite performance, Barras? What are you going for?
I'm probably going with Dan the Man. Yeah, I'll go with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah. But the other, I would say it's mainly a 3-piece movie, because it's him and the other two women, Alma and Cyril, and they are phenomenal. They're really, really good.
I think probably Daniel Day-Lewis is the best, but for me, my favorite is Leslie Manville as Cyril. She just has this incredible, like, steely eyes to her.
Yeah.
He's very, like, passive-aggressive scenes with Alma especially.
Oh, yeah, very, very passive. Yeah, very passive.
And that, obviously, that line when she threatens Reynolds.
Yeah, that's an incredible line.
When she says, "Oh, you won't get back up again," it's like, whoa.
Yeah. That was a damn good line.
She means it.
Yeah.
You believe her in that moment.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Leslie Manville.
Okay.
So acting score, Boaz, what are you going for?
Go like a 9.2.
For acting, for me, I will go a 9.4. I think it's a real tour de force in acting, and I think certainly in very key moments in this film, if the acting is not spot on, it's not especially that scene at the end, it will fall completely flat if Daniel Day-Lewis does not get that right, and he does, and I don't think anyone else could really fill his shoes in that moment specifically, so I'm going to go 9.4. Right, let's add up the scores then for Phantom Thread, which does not involve Billy Zane in a purple onesie.
It does involve a purple dress, I suppose. Many colours of dress. Maybe Billy Zane is one of the girls wearing the dresses. I don't know.
Phantom Thread gets a very, very impressive score of 54.3. But I have a feeling it ain't going to win, even with that score.
Yeah, no, that score is insanely good. But, oh, man, when we get to There Will Be Blood, I've got so much to say about that film. I adore that movie.
Cool. That's it for part 1. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Check out part 2 to see who wins. But don't stop there. Get involved and tell us what your favourite films are relating to the episodes. Send us a DM or comment on Instagram and TikTok at Film vs. Film Podcast, for Twitter at FVF_podcast. If you do, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. If you're feeling really generous, you can buy us a one-off coffee at our Buy Me a Coffee account. Remember, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Pod signing off.